Hi everyone, it's Sandy, and in today's video I will be recommending some of my favorite debut books. And if you don't know what a debut book is, it basically is the first book that an author publishes. I have been wanting to film this video for a while and I am finally doing it. I'm looking through my list and a lot of the books that I am going to be recommending are pretty well known, but they're actually books that I haven't really talked about on my channel in a while. So I'm really excited to talk about these books again. And if you happen to be putting off reading one of these books, then hopefully they're now at the forefront of your mind and watching this video will maybe motivate you to pick it up sooner. The first book that I wanted to recommend is I Wish You All the Best by Mason Deaver. This is a YA contemporary following our main character Ben, who is kicked out of their home after they come out as non-binary to their parents. And as a result of being kicked out, they reach out to their sister that they haven't really been in touch with in a while. They end up moving in with their sister and transferring to a new school, and at this new school, Ben meets Nathan. Nathan is immediately very friendly and welcoming to Ben, but later on in the story there is a relationship that develops between Nathan and Ben, and that's all I'm going to say about the synopsis. I do want to give some trigger warnings for misgendering, homophobia, transphobia, anxiety, depression, panic attacks, and obviously parental abandonment / being kicked out of one's home. The story is told in Ben's point of view, and I really love the journey that they go through. Ben has a passion for art, and I love seeing that being incorporated into the story. Ben also has this online friendship with this non-binary side character, and I really love seeing that. We also get scenes of Ben going to therapy, which I think is very important, and I love that the story portrayed that. Ben does have pretty toxic parents, and the parents basically disowned their sister. I love that even though Ben and their sister haven't really been in touch, their sister immediately was so welcoming to Ben. She immediately took them in and made sure that they felt safe and welcome and accepted. And obviously I have to talk about Nathan, who is just the sweetest, and I love him. I really love seeing how Ben and Nathan's relationship developed throughout the story. They had such a solid friendship, and seeing that turn into something more was beautiful. Overall, this was just a really incredible and important own voices story, and I would highly recommend it. My next favorite debut book is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas, and this is a pretty popular book, so I know that so many people have read it or at least know about it. But if you haven't read it, I think that this is definitely a must read. This story does deal with a very heavy topic, and it follows our main character Star Carter, who is 16 years old when she witnesses one of her closest friends being shot and killed by a police officer. So the story does deal heavily with police brutality and racism and discrimination. The story is heartbreaking and powerful and so real. I thought the movie was really great as well. Even though the story does deal with a lot of heavy topics, there are lighthearted moments in the story as well, especially concerning the family dynamics. The Carter family is definitely one of my favorite fictional families because they're just so amazing. I just love the way the parents interacted with their kids and seeing the sibling relationship as well. They're just such a beautiful family and I love them. My next favorite debut book is The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. This is a YA contemporary and it's written in verse following our main character Xiomara. The story focuses on identity, family, and religion, and I would highly recommend listening to the audiobook if you choose to pick this one up because the audiobook is actually narrated by the author herself. Xiomara is a Dominican teenager and she struggles a lot with her faith in the story, and even though that's not something I necessarily related to, I still really connected to her character and fell in love with her voice, literally because Elizabeth Acevedo has a beautiful voice. Throughout the story, she's also experiencing her first relationship and she joins this poetry club that she's starting to develop a passion for, and it was just a beautiful story about the complexities of being a teenager. So switching it up from YA contemporary, I'm going to recommend a YA fantasy book, and that is An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. I always struggle trying to explain what the story is about, but it's a story that's inspired by ancient Rome, and it follows two main characters, Laia and Elias. Laia is a slave, and one day her brother is actually arrested for treason, and as a desperate attempt to save him, she agrees to work for the rebels, and so she is sent to this military academy, and this is where she meets Elias, who is a soldier, and he is the son of the commandant. The commandant is very brutal and harsh and terrible, and she has one of the highest rankings in the empire. This book came out in 2015 and I loved it. I read it around the time that it came out. The main thing I don't like about the series is how long it took for each of the following books to come out. There are 4 books in the series. The 4th book is not out yet. So the 2nd book came out like a year after this first one released, but the 3rd book came out like 2 years after the 2nd one, and then the 4th one is coming out over 2 years after the 3rd one. So with each book in the series, there was like an increasingly longer wait time for the next book, and I really did not like that because it started to make me lose interest in the series, and this is a really great series and I didn't want to lose interest in it. But I would say that now is a really great time to start the series if you haven't already picked it up, because the last book comes out in December, I believe, so it comes out later this year, so you won't have to wait a super long time to finish the series. This book was definitely very action-packed and it was so intense too. My favorite part of the story were definitely the trials. It kind of had like a Hunger Games type of vibe, and I I loved it. It was just so intense and it had me on the edge of my seat. I'm really looking forward to the last book and I can't wait to see how this whole series wraps up. The next book I wanted to talk about is also another fantasy, and that is Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. I'm sure most of y'all probably remember all the hype surrounding this book when it first came out, but the hype is definitely well deserved, I think. And if you don't know what the story is about, it follows our main character Zaylee, who is fighting to bring magic back to her people. I really love the world and learning about the different types of magic. Throughout the story, Zaylee works with her brother and this rogue princess named Amari. I really enjoyed that sibling relationship, but also seeing this friendship with Zaylee and Amari. I really love Zaylee as a main character and seeing her strength and determination throughout the story. I did read this book back in 2018, and so I'm forgetting a lot of details that happen in the book, and I haven't read the second one yet, so I definitely think I need to reread this book before I jump into the second one. And the last book that I wanted to recommend in this video is Crier's War by Nina Varela, and I definitely raved about this book back in October 2019 when I first read it because it's amazing, and I don't really see this book talked about a lot. This book contains an enemies to lover sapphic relationship between a human and an android. This story is told in dual point of views, following Ayla, who is the human, and Crier, who is the android. In this world, these androids are called Autome, and they basically rule society, and Crier happens to be the daughter of the sovereign. Humans have definitely suffered a lot under Autome control, and so Ayla wants to get revenge. She wants to bring down the sovereign, so she gets this position as a servant to Crier, and so she is determined to kill Crier. The story does deal with themes of oppression and privilege and what it means to be human. I love this book. This was a book that I did not want to put down. I especially love the slow burning enemies to lover romance. Like, it was done so well in this book. Ayla and Crier are just so cute and adorable, and I want them to be together. I honestly don't know how that's gonna happen. You can definitely feel the angst and the tension between these two characters throughout the story, and I loved every second of it, and I can't wait to see how that develops in the second book. I thought the world was also really interesting because rather than the humans being in control, it's the Autome that are in control. I really love learning about the history and reading about how the Autome came in control in the first place. So if you have not read this book yet, definitely pick it up, add it to your TBR. Overall, this was an amazing fantasy book and I would highly recommend it. Alright, so those are all of the debut books that I wanted to recommend in this video. If you have read any of them, please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you haven't read any of them, then let me know which one you're looking forward to picking up. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it and I will see you next time. Bye!